Microwave. Imagine standing in front of a radar device, then noticing that the chocolate bar in your pocket has started to melt without being anywhere near a fire. This is what happened in 1945 to the American engineer Percy Spencer while he was working at Raytheon on the development of radar systems. These systems used a tube known as a magnetron, which produced powerful electromagnetic waves used to send radar signals. While Spencer was standing near the device, he noticed that the chocolate bar in his pocket had strangely melted. He suspected that the waves coming from the magnetron were what had heated it. To test this, he brought some corn kernels and placed them near the device. Moments later, the kernels began to pop and turn into popcorn. Then he tried heating an egg, but pressure built up inside it, causing it to explode in front of one of his colleagues. At that moment, Spencer realized that radar waves were not only useful for detection, but could also heat food quickly. So he built a closed metal box and placed the magnetron inside it, so the waves would remain trapped within the box and strike the food from multiple directions. These waves cause water molecules inside the food to move rapidly. That movement produces heat, warming the food from the inside. In 1947, the first commercial microwave oven appeared. It was known as the radar range, but it was extremely large. It stood about 1.5 meters tall and weighed more than 300 kilograms. It was also very expensive, so it was used in restaurants and institutions and was not suitable for homes. Over the years, the devices became smaller and cheaper until the microwave entered millions of kitchens. And so, a chocolate bar that melted by accident became the idea behind a device that changed the way food is heated around the world. X-rays. Imagine looking at a human hand and being able to see its bones without surgery and without opening the skin. Until the end of the 19th century, that seemed impossible. But one unexpected experiment changed the way doctors could see what was happening inside the human body. In 1895, the German physicist Wilhelm Röntgen was conducting experiments in his laboratory using a glass tube known as a cathode ray tube. The tube produced a stream of electrons when an electric current passed through it. To prevent light from escaping, Röntgen covered the tube with thick black cardboard, but when he turned on the device, he noticed something strange. A screen coated with a fluorescent material, placed some distance away from the tube, began to glow in the dark room. Ordinary light was completely blocked, which meant that something invisible had come out of the tube and reached the screen. Röntgen began placing different objects between the tube and the screen. He discovered that the rays could pass through paper, wood, and even parts of the human body, but dense materials, such as metal and bone, blocked a large part of the rays, so they appeared as clear shadows. To confirm his discovery, he placed his wife's hand in front of a photographic plate and exposed it to the rays for several minutes. When the image appeared, the bones of her hand could be seen clearly, and her ring was visible around one of her fingers. It was one of the first images to show the inside of a living human body without surgery. And because Röntgen did not know the true nature of these new rays, he called them X-rays, meaning unknown rays. Within just a few months, doctors began using them to see broken bones and locate bullets and shrapnel inside injured bodies. But their early use came before the dangers of radiation were fully understood, so some doctors and patients were exposed to large doses that caused serious harm. With the development of protective equipment, X-rays became one of the most important tools in medical diagnosis. And so, a strange glow that appeared by chance in the corner of a dark laboratory became a technology that allowed doctors to see what the human body was hiding. Penicillin. Imagine leaving a dish full of bacteria, then coming back to find it contaminated with mold. Most likely, you would throw it away immediately and assume the experiment had failed, but this simple mistake led to one of the most important medical discoveries in history. In 1928, the Scottish scientist Alexander Fleming was studying a type of bacteria inside his laboratory in London. After returning from a vacation, he noticed that one of his uncovered dishes had been contaminated with a strange mold. But what caught his attention was not the mold itself. It was that the bacteria surrounding it had completely disappeared. Instead of throwing the dish away, Fleming began examining the mold and discovered that it released a substance capable of killing certain types of bacteria. He named that substance penicillin, but at the time, Fleming was not able to produce penicillin in sufficient quantities or turn it into a stable medicine. More than 10 years later, other scientists, including Howard Florey and Ernst Chain, succeeded in purifying penicillin and developing it into a real treatment. During World War II, it began to be produced in large quantities and was used to treat soldiers suffering from infections that could have killed them, even from a small wound. Before antibiotics, some simple infections could turn into dangerous blood poisoning, and doctors had no effective way to stop them. But after penicillin, it became possible to treat millions of cases that would once have been considered deadly. And so, a laboratory dish contaminated with mold, one that could easily have been thrown in the trash, became the beginning of the age of antibiotics and a discovery that helped save millions of lives around the world. Super glue. Imagine trying to invent a transparent material for use in military equipment, but all you end up with is a liquid that sticks to anything it touches. Most likely, you would consider the experiment a failure and get rid of the material immediately, but this annoying substance would later become one of the strongest types of glue. In 1942, the American chemist Harry Coover was working with a team of researchers to develop transparent plastics for use in gun sights. During the experiments, the team created a new substance known as cyanoacrylate, but it was extremely sticky. It bonded quickly to tools and to any surfaces it touched, so the researchers considered it unsuitable and stopped working on it. About 9 years later, Harry Coover returned to the same substance while working on a different project. One of the researchers was testing it inside a device designed to measure its properties, but the material stuck to parts of the device, making it difficult to separate them. At first, it seemed like another problem, but this time, Coover realized that its extreme stickiness was not a flaw. It could be the material's most important feature. Cyanoacrylate does not need heat or mixing with another substance. It reacts with a small amount of moisture found on most surfaces and hardens within seconds. It began to be developed as a new type of glue and was introduced commercially in the late 1950s. It could bond plastic, metal, wood, and even human skin very quickly. During the Vietnam War, special forms of this material were used to temporarily close wounds and reduce bleeding until the injured person reached a hospital. Later, safer medical versions were developed for closing certain surgical wounds. And so, a substance that was rejected at first because it stuck to everything became super glue used around the world in homes, factories, and medicine.